Good evening. Hello. I am making a video tonight because tonight is the fifth full moon, the fifth month that Richard has passed away, my beloved Richard. I can't believe that it's been 5 months since he left. And I'm not sure whether to use words like that, left, or when you use the word like I lost Richard, or my loss. He left. He passed. He died. I don't. Those words. They convey the wrong message, because I do believe that Richard has been with me, and today, particularly, I saw 22 come up on the clock so many times today, and it just made me so very happy to see that. Just, I'd be doing different things. I'd be, putting the dishes away, or I'd be making the bed, and I'd turn around and I'd look at the clock, and suddenly I would see 422, or I would see 444. I saw a lot of angelic numbers today, which really made me happy. And the reason I mentioned 22 is Richard's birthday was August 22nd. And it really gives me great joy when I happen to catch the clock at 8:22, either in the morning or the evening. And I wanted to share a little experience with you. I think I mentioned in one of my videos that I had been watching a lot of videos about connecting with those that have what they say as crossed the veil. And I should stop right now and say, we get this impression that when the soul leaves the body, it goes to a different place. That, again, is a linguistic problem. We don't have the language to describe what happens to the soul. It's kind of more like they can be here or anywhere. There's no limitations. When you are released from, as Socrates put it, the prison house of the body, you are free to be in any place you want to be. And place, again, using the word place, connotates like a location with time and space. There's no time and space where Richard is at. So it's a matter of awareness and consciousness. And that consciousness and that level where his soul is can be here in this plane of existence, or it's really hard to describe, but it's a matter of it's all about consciousness and awareness and energy. And so I know that his energy, his soul, has been with me. Not all the time. I mean, he has his own soul journey. He has his own path that God wants him to follow for more spiritual growth. I believe that Richard is a very advanced soul. So I believe that God has put him in a very advanced kind of place of learning. I don't like to use that word place. It's just, I don't have any other way of putting it. There are no other terms, but it's all about your consciousness and your soul awareness and how far that goes with growth, with spiritual growth. So having my little wine, and I'm thinking about these spiritual questions, and I wanted to share with you an experience I had with talking with a medium. I know people have had their doubts about that. And I hope this new speaker is working, because one time I did a whole video and I thought it was working, and then all of a sudden it shut off and it was just silent. So I'm going to crossing my fingers. I did several tests on it, and it was working. So, but I mentioned in a previous video that there was I watch a lot of videos on people that speak about connecting with souls in the afterlife. Now, some of them I believe are, a bit phony, kind of charlatans, but you can still learn something from them because it's the message that counts. But I kind of have a radar, little antennas to kind of detect what I think are the real ones as opposed to the phony ones. And I listened to this interview on a show called Next Soul Level. And he interviews a lot of people, and some of them I think, oh, brother, this guy is woo-woo, But there's other people that what they describe sound just resonated with me. And this young woman, her name is Amber Kasic. The first thing that struck me about her was she spoke about her father and connecting with her father. And what struck me was her father passed away on November 1st. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. Right there, I felt like there's a connection right there because Richard passed away on November 1st. It's documented as the second, but I believe that he passed on the 1st. And that's a heavy, heavy number because that's 111. 11 is 11. November 1st is 1. In numerology, that is like you're a heavy soul when you pass on 111. And so she spoke about that, and there were other things that she described that I thought this just sounds really, really authentic and really true to me. And I tried to connect her all the way back when I was in Maui because I was desperate to try to connect with Richard after he passed. I wanted so badly to just have some connection with him. And I believe he was connecting with me on telepathically. There were things that he was telling me, like where the will is. I know he was sending me telepathic thoughts where the will is because I couldn't remember. I had no idea that he put the will in a safety deposit box. And I suddenly, when I was in Maui, I was worried because I knew what was going on. And I'm not going to go into that with his son, but I knew I was in trouble because Richard and I were not married. So without the will, I had nothing. I had nothing at all, nothing to stand on, so to speak. So, and that was scary to me, really, really scary. I was so scared and afraid, and also at the same time grieving at the law, that he had died. It was so shocking to me that he had died. I knew he was having heart problems, but I never thought it would lead actually to his death. So that was shocking. And I know that I suddenly said to Richard, I was praying, I said, what am I going to do, Richard? I don't remember talking to you about where you put the will. I trusted Brett, and I naively told him where I thought it might be, which would be in your lawyer's antique cabinet that, under W, all these little drawers were alphabetized. And I told Brett, I said, Brett, maybe it's in the drawer with W. And there might have been a copy of the will in there. But he was telling me there's no will. So I was just scared. I was scared, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? Richard, what am I going to do? And suddenly the thought came into my mind. I know it didn't come from me. The thought came into my mind, safety deposit box. And suddenly I remembered, I I mean, we did the safety deposit box like something like 15 years ago. That's how long ago it was. That's why I forgot. I didn't even remember it. But so that's why, because I didn't think of it on my own, because I didn't even remember that safety deposit box because it was so long ago. I forgot all about it. And, you know, when we did it, I never even knew what he put in there. We just did the thing together, signed the thing. I had the information on it, and that was it. I had no idea what he put in it or anything. We just shared the safety deposit box. So I know it didn't come from me. It came from him. It's in the safety deposit box, Jackie. He was telling me because he knew how scared I was. So I know that Richard has been with me and he has sent, telepathic thoughts to me. But at the same time, it's really hard missing him and missing his physical presence. And I don't have the kind of connection that some people like Amber, who has this gift of really and truly connecting with souls in the afterlife. And I emailed her all the way back when I was in Maui, and I said, "Can you please do a session with me? I just want to see if you can connect with Richard." And she was completely booked up. And it wasn't until just recently that she could do a session with me, which was March 26th. And I prayed to Richard. I said, "Richard, I'm not that, I'm not that well advanced on reaching the higher consciousness level to connect with you. It's not you, it's me. I'm sure that you've been trying. Maybe in my dreams, or maybe in my mind just isn't clear enough to make that connection, that frequency, you have to be on that higher frequency." And so I thought, if I can, maybe Amber can connect with him because she has this gift, this God-given gift, and I really believe she's the real deal. So I prayed to Richard and I said, if you can please try to talk with Amber. I'm going to be talking with her on the 26th of March at 11 a.m. So Amber calls me and we begin the session. Now, mind you, this is what I mean about the real deal. There are some people that will use generalities, and they'll hit on certain things just because it's general and may apply to a lot of people. But she ends up discussing like things that there's no way she could have found out, specific things that there's no way that she could have known about, because I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her anything about him. And so we get on the phone and she says, okay, she does a thing where we both kind of go into a quiet state of meditation. And she took me from, thinking of the white light and to reach that energy within your heart. So I was doing what I could, closed my eyes, and I was in this place of heart energy and, with my heart loving Richard with all my heart. And she was like making her connection. And she said, "Oh, he is really a strong energy. I feel this very strong masculine energy from him." And I didn't want to say anything. I was just going to just let her say what she had to say, and then I would respond later afterwards because I didn't want to interrupt. So I just let her go through describing whatever she was picking up without much interruption. And I thought, yeah, that definitely is, Richard was a very strong, energy. She said, I'm getting the feeling that he was really into strength with his body, and that maybe he was doing something with weightlifting or something. And I thought, oh my gosh. At that point, I said, Richard was always into lifting weights, and all of his life since he was a young man. In fact, he was so good at it that he could have entered the Olympics. And she laughed. She said, I'm kind of getting this connection between Richard and my father, because when she would make these connections, sometimes her father would be helping her from the other side. Her father passed away, as I mentioned, on November 1st. And she says, I'm feeling like the two of them are kind of connecting, because they had a lot, because my father was very much into that too. And then, she said, I'm sensing like he's very kind of romantic with offering a bouquet of flowers. And oh, that really got to me. I actually started crying at that. I started crying because she said she was thinking that was the way Richard was, like for birthdays or something, that he would buy flowers for me. But I knew what it was really about. I have been going to his grave and placing fresh flowers, you know, continually. I go there and I go to Ace and I find like a pretty little pot of flowers that are vibrant and colorful. And I often go there to water them, to keep them watered. And then I go there to sit there to pluck the grass. And I know what that bouquet of flowers was about. He was telling me, thank you for putting flowers on the grave. I know that's what it was. She thought, oh, he just is romantic, he likes to give. But she made the connection with the flowers that meant a lot to me. That was a specific evidence that she could never have tapped into at all, or no, excuse me, that she could not have known. I did not say to her, I go to the grave and I put flowers. I never told her any of that. And then she was telling me that he felt that I had to, that he was really proud of what I was doing, and in terms of taking care of the affairs. And there was something about how he wanted me to feel strong enough to do it, because he knew that I have insecurities. And he was trying to tell me that, or through Amber, that it's important to find your own power and be encouraged by what you think is right. Because he said, to her, that I was right about what I was doing. Because I did ask her, I said, I'm just worried. I'm hoping I'm making the right decisions, about the property manager, that I didn't want to go that way. Those were a couple of things that I did mention. And she was picking up on, he wants you to do what you think is right and to have faith in yourself and the power of doing it. So I really loved that message. And then she said, he has a sense of humor, doesn't he? And I said, yes, I couldn't help saying, yes, yes, he was always telling jokes. She said he would like to tell jokes because it would often lighten up, any kind of darkness. And so he liked to tell jokes to kind of break up any kind of, if anybody was feeling badly or something, he'd tell a joke. And I thought, wow, that's Richard. She really did connect with him. And I just felt there were some other things that she mentioned. Um, I'm not going to go through everything, but I can just tell you that I felt like she did make a connection with him. And I there were too many specific things. Um, the only thing that when it was over, the only thing is that I wanted it to make me feel better, like, okay, now I know everything's okay with him and there is a way of connecting with him. But in a way, it kind of made me a little sad because I was thinking, well, if she was getting connected to his energy and getting these telepathic thoughts and images, that's another part, visual images. I was thinking, why can't I? Why can't I do that with him? And that's the only part that kind of made me depressed. Now, like I said, I do feel like I am getting telepathic thoughts from him. And I do feel like I'm getting signs. But yeah, I just kind of thought, oh, it was just a very interesting session. And I don't regret doing it at all. I do think like it helped me, it encouraged me to continue on to believe that there is a bridge between myself and him. I just have to learn a little bit more, like Amber, how to make that connection. And usually it's through practice of meditation, silencing your mind, and waiting to receive, whatever comes to you. And I wanted to go into a different discussion too, as well. I know that I got pretty scolding with Richard's son. I kind of gave him a good scolding in that last video. And I just want to say that my intentions on that are actually to help Brett. If you're listening to this, Brett, I don't say these things out of anger. I don't have any anger towards you. I don't have any hate. I was thinking again, what upset me and what got me back on that track again was that I was thinking about printing out some of my sketches, and Richard always encouraged me to turn my sketches into cards, and I did do that. There was a time when I went to a printer and I got my sketches printed out. I got the envelopes for them, and I was on the way to selling them. And it's just a fun project. There's nothing, there's not going to be any money in it. It was just like a fun project to do. And I realized that a lot of my sketches were on the computer that Brett took. He can deny it all he wants, but he took the purple HP and it had a number of my sketches on it. And now I don't have access to print those sketches out. And it just kind of brought it all back on me. And I just felt I needed to do that video to say, your father would never do any of these things. And I had to think to myself, you have a PhD in classics, you taught Homer, you taught Sophocles, you taught the story of Antigone. All of these stories and myths from Greek mythology, even the story of Homer, what do you think Homer was trying to convey in the Iliad? You know, the upshot, the single most important message that Homer was trying to say is war is atrocious. War is a horrible thing. That's really what he was trying to say. And there was like there were moral points all through that story of the Iliad. Same with Antigone. Moral points all through. And they have to do with making decisions based on whether a person is following their conscience of right and wrong. And in today's world, it seems like Brett's not the only one. A lot of people in his age group and younger, they don't believe in God. They don't believe in absolute truths. Everything is relative to them. A lot of them are nihilists, and they just believe everything is subjective. And so if they do something that is wrong, it doesn't matter to them because according to them, there's no absolute right or wrong anyway. It's just what benefits you at that moment. How does it benefit you according to your own self-interest? And, you know, and I taught about this in philosophy, you know. But if you take any one of those philosophers, including the existentialists who were atheists, whether it's Sartre or Nietzsche, do you think that the end result of their ideas based on there is no God, based on atheism, based on no absolute truth, do you think that they would conclude, as what was brought up in Dostoevsky, if God is dead, then everything is permitted? Do you think they would like that conclusion? Do you think that's where they were going in the end result of their conclusions of all of their stories? Nietzsche, Parable of the Madman. Do you think that that they were saying, okay, guys, it's all free fall, no God, no absolute truth, go for it, do anything you want, lie if you want, you know, if it benefits you, a lie doesn't count because there is no right or wrong. Do you think that's the end conclusion that they were going for? Of course not. You know, even if you understand what Nietzsche meant by the Superman is a harsh judge of himself or herself on moral principles. Those moral principles may not come from some organized religion, but the whole idea was that you are a harsh judge of yourself on acting as a moral agent. Even if you believe that there's no God and no absolute truths, those philosophers believed you can still go through the life as a moral agent and act on moral principles according to your understanding of what is right and wrong. And they understood that you don't do things that are going to hurt people, whether there's a God or not. You don't do actions that you know are going to hurt other people and create, you know, bad consequences. You don't beat up a dog and abuse a dog, okay, whether you believe in God or not. The Superman would never abuse a dog and then say, well, there's no God, so it doesn't matter, you know, there's no right or wrong. Now, there are, you know, exceptions. You know, nobody's perfect. People, you know, do lie sometimes because out of embarrassment, out of humiliation. And then Some people lie because it just comes easy to them and it doesn't matter and it serves their own purpose, their own self-interest purpose. And then, you have the cases of people that lie because it's out of good intentions. The most, I would say, meaningful example of that were the people that helped Jews to hide, and they kept them in their homes. And when the Nazis would come and say, "Are you hiding Jews in here?" And they would lie and say no. But that lie had good intentions behind it, meaningful good intentions. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is that last video, it was me kind of trying to shake you up, get you to think, would your dad ever do something like this? To get you to think about the question of right and wrong. Because if you don't, and sometimes there are gray areas, but there's, when you steal something and you're stealing it and you know that it doesn't belong to you, there's no question about it that you should know that what you're doing is wrong. Now, if you do that and you steal and you think, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just doing this because, hey, I can come in here and do whatever I want. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it hurts Jackie. Doesn't matter if I betray my father, whether he's dead or not. I would say to that is that's not a very meaningful life. That's a very shallow life. It's an empty life. Because the thing that gives us meaning in this life is to act on principle. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's very hard to act on principle. To go back to that example, those people that were hiding Jews risked their own lives. Because if they got caught, they'd, curtains for them as well. So a principled life is a hard life sometimes to live, but it's a meaningful life. A life where people go through and think, I'll just take whatever I want, do whatever I want. There's no right or wrong. I can lie. I can do whatever I want. No absolute truth, no God. That's not a meaningful life at all. It's like going through life as an automaton, a robot. You're just nothing more than a robot. You're a machine without a conscience, a machine without a soul. So when I made that video, and even the first one that I made where I told the truth about how shocking it was, it's not to humiliate and it's not out of anger. It's to get you to think about how you want to live your life and to get you to think about the question of right and wrong. And if a person doesn't know when they steal something that it's wrong, something has gone awry in your life. So I just think on the 5th month after your dad passed, I had to, make a commentary to that last video. And I am hoping that things will turn around and things can be worked out. I am hoping for that. And the funny thing, and here's the irony, that this idea of you wanting it all and shredding the will so I don't get anything, the irony is that you're going to end up with everything because that's the way your dad had the will. Because I'm on borrowed time right now. I'm 70 years old. I don't have probably much time to go. And frankly, I'm looking forward to being with your dad. I want to be with him. And I want to be released from my body, but I have to do what I have to do according to God's will. And but the way the will is set up, if I die, everything goes to you. And according to the law of nature, I'm going to go first. I'm going to kick the bucket first. So not only that, but even just the sharing, hey, you're going to be fine. You're going to be, even in the sharing with me, you're going to be a very, very, very wealthy guy, okay? You don't have to take the whole enchilada. You're still going to be extremely wealthy and well off. Compliments of your father. Okay, because I know every day I'm grateful. If it weren't for him, I'm always telling him in my prayers how grateful I am to him for giving me a blessed life. And anything that you get from him, you got it by riding off of his coattails. I remember the little story that he used to tell where you were saying, I got to go down the raft. And I'm going down the raft. And he said, yeah, and I'm the one pumping the raft up for you. You remember that? Well, if you don't, let it sink in a little bit. All right. I love you, Richard. It's been 5 months, and I love you so dearly. And there's not a day that will go by in my life that I don't think about you, that I don't talk to you and love you. And these videos are for you. These videos are for you as well. Thank you for listening.